Watch this.
There's a 24-hour hotline to help people in crisis, but if Idaho minors pick up the phone to call. Now, though, a local teen is urging legislators to fix the state's parental rights law so everyone can reach that lifeline. And it's more than just politics for Isla Hickman. After lobbying for a state amphibian for 5 years when she was younger, she got that signed into law. Now, more than 10 years later, Isla looks back on her drive to get the Idaho giant salamander the recognition it deserves. A bill that would give Idaho's Attorney General the power to sue public officials and government agencies that are believed to be disobeying Idaho law is staying put for now. It was held in committee today. Aspen Shumpert joins us. Aspen, you were at the hearing. Why did the lawmakers decide to hold off on this thing?
Well, it's really because House Speaker Mike Moyle and sponsor of this bill asked the committee to do so and hold off. Moyle tells me that's not what he wanted to do, but because he didn't think the votes would be in favor of moving this bill on, he's considering making some changes to it. House Bill 743, as it is right now, in addition to the Attorney General possibly suing any public officer, employee, or government entity believed to be violating state law, state dollars to the entity would be frozen the moment a lawsuit is filed. And those found willfully breaking the law could face personal fines of up to $5,000. Moyle says the committee has received a large number of emails with concerns, and critics say the bill as written tips the scale too far in the Attorney General's favor because under the current language, the AG would collect attorney's fees if they win, but the person being sued would not. Additionally, there are concerns about the low burden of proof and that, quote, reason to believe someone is violating the law is a low bar. Moyle says he's open to tweaking the bill to find a solution, but there needs to be, quote, enough of a penalty.
People sometimes ignore the laws we do here at the State House, and that's not right. And so we've got to find a path that we can force people to obey the laws we pass. I don't care if they're a state agency, a local taxing, I don't care who they are, they ought to obey the laws.
Because the committee voted unanimously to hold the bill in committee, that means it did not get any public testimony today. But one group who sent the committee members a letter in opposition of the bill was the Association of Idaho Cities. Its deputy director, Jonathan Wheatley, was in the room today. He tells me the association is in support of making sure Idaho law is enforced, but was pleased to hear it might be reworked, and the association is concerned cutting revenue off immediately could cripple local services.
We use the funding through cities for things like police, fire, ambulance, and I know that all of the other agencies and things throughout the state are all providing good services for the residents of Idaho.
Moyle says he's not sure if this bill will get amended or a new bill entirely with a new bill number will come forward instead. Justin, next steps are those conversations to hear some of those concerns. Of course, we'll be keeping an eye on what's next for this.
So, Aspen, people who have been watching this legislative session might be wondering, well, this seems familiar. Was this bill, like many others, designed to keep, say, the city of Boise from flying the pride flag?
A good question. I asked Moyle that if this was, stemming from the things that we've seen going on right now. We know that flag bill has not really made any movement in this legislative session, but he says no, it's not targeted. In fact, he said we've seen other things where state agencies aren't giving budgets into the state. So similar to what we're seeing, that would all fall under the same umbrella. So not meant to be targeted, but meant for everyone to be following the law.
Alrighty, Aspen, thank you for that. Appreciate it. A 2024 law designed to strengthen parental rights is now under some heavy scrutiny. A 15-year-old Meridian student says Senate Bill 1329 is having unintended and potentially deadly consequences. The bill says parental consent is required for any medical decision for a minor. As we previously reported, the law is pretty broad, and some schools take it very literally. The Boise School District doesn't allow Band-Aids or over-the-counter pain relievers to be handed out without parental consent. As Abby Wild reports, one student is against that bill after he was hung up on when he called the National Suicide Hotline and was told parental consent was needed for him to get help.
I called it at one point. It was very late. It was almost 6 months ago now.
It was 2 a.m. on a school night.
I was stressed out and I wanted somebody to talk to.
But within minutes, the call changed.
They told me there's a bill, it's called Senate Bill 1329, and this is what it means. And then explained that they had to hang up on me.
Senate Bill 1329 was passed into law in 2024. The Idaho law requires any healthcare provider to receive parental consent before treating a minor. 15-year-old Jace Woods says it doesn't stop at the doctor's office. It also affects kids who are calling the National Suicide Lifeline.
Unless you tell them on the line, I will kill myself right now if you do not keep talking to me, they can't keep talking to you. That is my experience.
The law states that if, after a reasonably diligent effort, the healthcare provider cannot locate or contact a parent of the minor child, and the minor child's life or health would be seriously endangered by further delay, then they can treat the child. But for Woods, he says he didn't see that urgency when he called 988, and he says he's not alone.
I know more than one person who has been hung up on.
In 2025, an amendment to the existing law was presented to the Senate State Affairs Committee.
We want to fine-tune just a little bit more language.
In the amendment, there is wording that states a provider can treat a minor, quote, if the minor child is accessing the services of the Idaho Crisis and Suicide Hotline or experiencing a mental health crisis and presents an imminent risk or serious injury to self or others.
When a teen is needing their parent the most and helping in this situation, so many teens can be emotional or think their parents are going to react one way.
But that amendment did not pass the House. In 2023, data from the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare shows that Idaho has the 4th highest suicide rate in the country and is the 2nd leading cause of death for teens and young adults.
We'll never know if those people were hung up on. But even if just one did, then this bill, because of a mistake in writing, has killed a child.
That's why Woods says Senate Bill 1329 needs to be amended this session.
It needs to go in like now. We can't wait.
He says he's reached out to several lawmakers for change, but they've told him an amendment is in the Legislative Services Office.
We are almost a month into the session. It's very late for new bills.
Woods says this can't wait another year, and he says a new bill doesn't even need to be written. He simply wants the 2025 amendment to be written into law.
I don't want to repeal this bill necessarily. This is an issue of poor wording. This is an issue of a mistake in writing. And it shouldn't be a partisan issue to fix that mistake.
He says sometimes the only thing standing between a teen and a tragedy is having someone stay on the line.
Sometimes you just need someone to talk to. Someone who you know doesn't know you and you know will not judge you in any way. The suicide hotline has 988 and 741, 741, and all of those lines have been that thing, that place where you could go.
And I did just hear back from the bill's sponsor, Representative Barbara Ehart. She says senators are working on updates to the bill and hope those will be introduced next week. She says those amendments would include 988 language in the law. However, she says in the original bill, 988 was always supposed to be allowed even without parental consent. Now, as a reminder, Justin, if you or anyone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts or a mental health crisis, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24/7 by dialing 988.
988, call that regardless. Abby, thank you. Important story there.
Let's stay focused on the rats.
Yeah, rats. Wolves and coyotes, oh my. Today, a potential new bill to clean up the language of House Bill 536, which inadvertently listed all mammals as agricultural pests. I take that personally, devolved into a listing of what other pests lawmakers wanted to include in the updated language. The bill lays out how county commissioners would deal with pests like those Norway rats. Representative Judy Boyle says there's a need to include wolves, though, too.
Representative, is there a reason why you did not include wolves in here for the county commissioners to deal with as well?
Representative Mathias.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Boyle, the short answer is because we were not asked to.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So would you do that if I ask you to?
Representative Mathias.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Boyle, I can feel the trap that I'm about to step into.
Are you trapping rodents or?
Trapping myself.
Yeah, you are trapping yourself.
I think that's unlikely, but happy to talk with my co-sponsor about that.
Yeah, he didn't want to step in that legislator trap. After Boyle made a substitute motion to add wolves, it was pointed out that adding a more broad term like any predatory animal could clear up any future issues. So an amended substitute motion was created. Grammar notes also made the rounds.
I do think that predatory animal would include wolves, and so maybe the confusion is that why add coyote? So if we just remove coyote, then it's just predatory animal, of which the county commissioners can infer as they choose.
If we were going to go to Representative Boyle's, I think for technical correction and to be English grammatically correct, you would need to take off the S's.
All right.
Could we amend your amended to say any predatory animal that feed on prey, removing the S's?
I think it's fine.
Representative Church, would you like to yield to the question from Representative Bingham?
I mean, yes, I will yield. I would say I don't think that grammatically it matters, the S.
Doesn't it, though? While co-sponsor of this potential new bill, Representative Bruce Skog, wanted to focus on the rats the committee ultimately passed the amended substitute motion after going at ease to add the broader language. Lesson here, grammar matters, and so does literally every word in state law. More of the 208 after this. Hunting could soon become an official state sport of Idaho, and it's largely thanks to the work in the Idaho legislature of a 9-year-old girl. Last week, told you about Betty Grandy, the young lady whose bill would designate hunting as Idaho's official state sport. That bill sailed through the full House just 2 days ago. 0 lawmakers voted against it. It's now waiting for debate in a Senate committee. Now, if you were watching the 208 on Friday, you know this is not the first time a determined 9-year-old girl tried to pass a bill in the Idaho legislature. Back in 2010, 9-year-old Isla Hickman tried to pass a bill to make the Idaho giant salamander the state's official amphibian. She had a harder time than Betty is having. Took her 5 years and 5 legislative sessions, but she finally got it done. You could say maybe Isla walked so Betty could run. We actually caught up with Isla, now in her 20s, to get to the bottom of her seemingly bottomless tenacity.
And I'm a super big nature nerd, and I always have been, and so I immediately jumped into the amphibian and reptile side and started researching that. And upon research, I guess, I found that we had in Idaho giant salamander, Decamptodon adoremus, and this is a native species of salamander found nowhere else in the world except for Idaho and a sliver of Montana. So I thought that that would be such a great symbol, and I didn't know why somebody else hasn't already done it. So I immediately just talked to my mom, who supported me in all my wild ideas, and a little bit of Schoolhouse Rock in there helped me want to actually create this bill.
And did it go anywhere that first year? Did it get printed?
No, this first year, nothing really happened. It kind of was like an idea into the wind, and then it wasn't until the next few years that it started to gain traction. And I think it was kind of a wild idea in the beginning, and then people started to keep seeing me in the Capitol and felt like they had to take me a little bit more seriously.
But I mean, was it a wild idea? Because it's like, it's just a state amphibian. Did it surprise you that they weren't like, yeah, I'll vote for this?
In a way, it did. I definitely thought it was going to be easier. In fourth grade, you're a lot less cynical of how bills are run and everything in the legislative process. I remember having to do an interview after one of the hearings, and I was like crying on camera because I was so let down again by it not getting passed. But I think that's a real world lesson. I learned a lot about tenacity at that age, and it's okay to get told no. But after that is what you decide to do with it, right? Like, I could have quit, but I wouldn't take no for an answer.
What were you feeling that fifth year, especially as it's all of a sudden, like toward the end of the session, it's like, oh, wait a second, like this is now headed to the governor's desk?
That was a wild information. I didn't know at that time that bills could get revived. Yeah. I remember it being killed and just nodding it off and be like, hey, I'm coming back next year, I guess. Like, maybe high school, this will get passed. And I got word that it had been revived. I was really happy that they did it. Yeah. I had a bunch of friends. I was in junior high at that time, and we were able to go to sign the bill together. I sat at the governor's desk. It was really sweet. So
another 9-year-old who's trying to get a bill through the legislature now, Betty Grandy. And do you have any advice for her?
I'm personally excited for Betty. Like I said, this is something that not a lot of people get to experience, and it's super rich to be able to be that old and to go in and just to present your case and your passions in front of a bunch of adults, right? Like, it can be scary, and so for her to stand up there and just be so forthcoming about her ideas and passions, it just makes me really happy to see that she's willing to take that chance.
Yeah. Is there any pang of like jealousy, like, dang, man, that is sailing through?
No, I am so happy for her. I'm so grateful for that. I mean, for her to be able to present such a bill in a really intimidating setting for a 9-year-old, and for it to be going through, it sounds like it's such a great idea. Everybody loves it. I love it, and it sounds like she does too, which is the most important thing. It's so important that if you have a goal or an aspiration, that the amount of time that it takes or the amount of no's you get shouldn't deter you. It should only fuel your fire. It just makes it that much more satisfying when you finally achieve it. And I think that conservation is hands-on, and it's okay to be a nerd about nature and to love the critters and the outdoors. And if you're 9 years old or if you're 90 years old, everybody has a say in the legislative process in Idaho, and that's what makes our country and our state so great. So I don't want people to feel like they can't have a voice in things, even if it's a little bill about a salamander or a big bill about making the state sport is hunting.
Man, it was so awesome talking to her. If you're wondering if Isla took that passion for the outdoors and transformed it into a career, she absolutely did. Got her bachelor's degree in wildlife ecology management, worked for fisheries, the Forest Service, the Student Conservation Association, the Utah Division of Natural Resources, and now for the Idaho Department of Fish and Game as a conservation officer. She says it's the perfect job for, again, as she calls herself, a nature nerd. More 208 after the break.
After yesterday's soggy day, we're enjoying a really pleasant Wednesday afternoon. We're at 51 in Boise. Unfortunately, that snow line is all but gone off the Boise foothills, but still really nice out there today. 46, still a little bit overcast in Twin Falls. Look at those crystal clear skies up in the mountains. Gorgeous in Sun Valley. 50 degrees, bluebird skies for skiers and boarders, taking advantage of the little bit of fresh snow that Sun Valley got yesterday. Now, we're not out of the woods completely as far as precipitation today. If you were out and about earlier here in Boise, you may have encountered a shower or two as we had a weak cold front that moved from north to south across the Gem State today. And you can see behind that front, we're still seeing just a few little pop-up sprinkles, mostly south now of the mountains and almost all south of the I-84 corridor. We may have a couple lingering little pop-up showers, but for the most part, the precipitation is done. And then the gusty, blustery winds we had anticipated today didn't develop anywhere except east of the Magic Valley. This is where that wind advisory was in place today, so appropriately so. We've been seeing gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour. It's been a bit breezy in the Magic Valley, relatively calm in the Treasure Valley, though, as that front again came in much weaker than anticipated. Just didn't pack a whole lot of punch as far as any impacts from that front. Temperatures actually staying really comfy today. As we look at our big picture look and our future cast, that precipitation slides off overnight tonight. Thursday, nice and quiet. Friday, quiet as well, but we'll see some clouds on the increase. We have high pressure that will amplify in from the south Thursday, Friday briefly, but this is what we're watching for the weekend. An area of low pressure off to the south, or southwest, I should say, will start its trek to the east, and that will push more precipitation our way for the weekend. By Saturday afternoon and evening, a couple showers in far southern Idaho. We'll just have a couple splash and dash showers to contend with over the weekend as we head into March on Sunday. Nothing near the washout we saw yesterday. So I think you're probably safe to wash the car over the next couple days, but bear in mind you may have just a few sprinkles over the weekend. No sprinkles tomorrow. Look at our Thursday, abundant sunshine, waking up the temperatures right around the freezing mark in Boise, but warming to 53 degrees. A stunning late winter day coming our way tomorrow. We may see some fog redeveloping in our sheltered mountain valleys tomorrow, but after that burns off and you get past these really cold temperatures in the morning, it'll be a lovely day up in the higher elevations as well. We'll wake up to those low to mid 30s across most of our Treasure and Magic Valley locations. We'll warm into those mid 50s. Gorgeous day there. We warm even further on Friday as that high pressure moves in from the south. Then we just stay in the mid 50s as we flip the calendar to March on Sunday. By next Tuesday, look at that, up to 60 in Boise. It is 5:22. Time to check out traffic conditions. So far, so good out there. We are not seeing any issues. Normally, of course, at this point, we see the connectors start stacking up. You may tap the brakes just a bit, getting off of the Flying Y onto westbound I-84. But looking at our current traffic flow, that is really the only issue out there. Nothing much else going on so far on this Wednesday.
Let's take a look at some of your viewer comments. How about this? My question is, if wolves are such a problem, why is the Fish and Game culling elk mostly Unit 32? So that'd be out by Weiser. Apparently there's a non-migratory herd of elk, about 350 of them. They're not going anywhere. They're just eating a lot of crops. So Fish and Game going to cull that herd a little bit. John here doesn't think that's right, especially if we're killing wolves out there. I don't know. Wolves, again, a major issue. Next, it's amazing that we cannot pass an amendment that protects children in crisis, but the legislature has time to spend on making hunting the state sport. Shouldn't children's mental health come first? John in Nampa. Hopefully, John, they can do both. That's certainly what we'd hope. They have enough time there. And let's talk about this. That was a great interview with Isla Hickman. Thanks for the update on what she's doing now. Hopefully in 15 years, we'll get an update on Betty Grandy. Sheila, I'll put it on my calendar if I'm still working here in 15 years. Who knows? Do nature nerds are cool? Just saying. Dale, I think so too. Real pleasure talking to you. Isla, Betty, we'll see you in 15 years.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.